And welcome into the brand new Wednesday episode of the Fantasy 4-Pack. I'm your host, Ian Power, joined as always by Matt Vitale, Frankie Santiago. We're mixing up our format a little bit for you guys, the viewing public at home.
We're getting crazy in here.
We're going to be shifting we're keeping the Wednesday episode as the Beer of the Week episode. We're shifting the first half of the countdown show over to Thursday, so it's just one big countdown show. We're moving starts of the week and money picks to today, and then for the other half of the show, we're going to keep it as a miscellaneous segment so we can, try and give you guys some more varied content throughout the week. So today we're going to be talking some buy low and sell high candidates, as well as our standard starts of the week and money picks. Before we get into the trade candidate discussion, let's do some news and show off the beer. Frankie, it was your turn to pick this week. You want to show off the can, introduce the audience to the brewery and beer?
Well, this is from Trophy down in North Carolina. This is probably their most popular beer, Cloud Surfer. Typical IPA, not too bitter.
Vitale, you must hate this.
Not exactly.
I took a sip and felt like I got punched by hops, so you must be in hell right now.
Less like lawn clippings, but there's just like a bittery. It's like if someone made an IPA and then just threw some ocean water in there.
I think it's good, but it's immediate. Like, there's no simmering of the hops with this one. It's like you drink it and it's like hops just punching you in the face, and then they just immediately vanish.
Yeah, it's not on the back end at all. It's really.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it a lot. They do a lot of good things.
I think it's good.
They do a lot of good things down there, and it's something different, because we typically have like those New England juice bombs.
Yeah, the hazy IPAs.
Yeah, this is a little bit more clear.
Yeah, it's sharper.
Yeah, I like it though.
No, I think it's good. It's definitely a nice step away from the norm. I'm personally glad that you went with this because you were threatening us with pumpkin beer this week, so I was dreading that, and then I saw you pulling this out of the bag. I was like, that doesn't look like pumpkin beer. Do you not get us pumpkin beer?
Yeah,
I was so happy.
Most pumpkin beers are gone. We're onto the winter seasonals now. So
thank God. Winter seasonals so much. The only pumpkin or the only fall beers worth drinking are Oktoberfest. It's all of these like pumpkin spicy pumpkin McPumpkin beer. It's like, get that shit out of here. Like, give me something good.
Well, we will not be getting a Shipyard sponsor, it seems.
Let's get on to the news. Alshon Jeffrey no longer has a foot issue. He now has a calf issue. Somehow he found a way to get injured without playing football. I don't know if he pulled a Rajon Rondo and slipped in the shower or something, but he is now nursing that and not practicing for a different reason. But at least he's making progress. Past the foot issue that's held him out for 8 weeks. Hopefully the calf doesn't hold him out for the next 8 weeks.
I was going to say, can you really call it progress when you get one injury out?
He cleared one injury out of the way, Vitale. That's progress if I've ever seen it.
I think that's more of the say, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Maybe. Allen Robinson in concussion protocol, kind of what we all expected. He was, removed from Monday night's game by the injury spotters. Typically, when they do that, it's because they can see that you're, walking the wrong direction or staring off into space. So I think, it was pretty obvious that he had a concussion. He didn't come back into Monday's game, so I'm not really surprised to hear this. Something to monitor throughout the week. Chance he plays this weekend. You can get through the concussion protocol in 1 week. If he doesn't, Mooney is who I would be targeting to start over him if you're starting anyone over him. I mean, actually, before we move on to the next, is that aside from the running game, are you starting anyone from this Bears team if Allen Robinson doesn't play? Outside of Dave Montgomery, I guess maybe Jimmy Graham.
I mean,
that would be my only person, Jimmy Graham. That also just a dart throw at this point.
Well, that's just the tight end is such a mess that it's like you could do worse.
With all the injuries in, I mean, you might be in bye week hell right now, like some of us are. But
injuries wouldn't put you in bye week hell, Frankie.
I mean, Mooney's the hotness right now, just because of how good he looked against Ramsey and whatnot, putting the moves on him. But
he's fast.
I mean, I might look Miller's way. Anthony Miller, like I said, if he's going to be out and Miller's going to be the top guy, I think he could just get peppered with targets, and it could just be the same thing that we see with AR-15, where it's just, value by just pepper. Just pepper.
A lot of that value comes from Allen Robinson for me, though, because he is such a good receiver that is just tied to such garbage quarterbacks. For me, I don't start anyone from this team if he's not there, aside from begrudgingly David Montgomery. But like Allen Robinson or Anthony Miller or Darnell Mooney, like neither of them are anything close to what Allen Robinson is as an NFL talent. So I'm not comfortable starting them regardless of who's under center. The Bears offense just does not want to be a well-functioning offense.
Yeah.
I don't know whose fault that is, whether it's Foles or whether it's Nagy's. I mean, you guys heard about the drama with Foles and Nagy, where Foles is saying that Nagy is calling plays that he knows won't work. So
I don't know. I feel like we keep wanting Anthony Miller to be a thing, and he just won't be a thing. Like, he has some good games every now and then.
He might need a quarterback or a coach.
It
sounds like he currently has neither.
Yeah, I mean, do remember, Todd Gurley was the hotness. Everyone wanted him to be a thing, but Jeff Fisher was a thing.
God, he was an anchor on people's fantasy teams, and not the good kind of anchor that stabilizes your team. Like the kind that accidentally goes through the bottom of your boat and drags you down to the bottom of the bay.
Hey, at least Todd Gurley got 2 good seasons.
Yeah, I'm off that Bears team though if Allen Robinson doesn't play this weekend. Michael Thomas DNP sounds like he might be missing this week as well. Obviously, one to monitor throughout the week. If he's got to play again eventually. So when he comes back. I'm just like, even if he doesn't practice at all, if they roll him out there this weekend, I'm plugging him in because it's Michael Thomas and he should re-inherit that role immediately. But it's discouraging to see him still be a DNP on Wednesday in Week 8.
Yeah, talk about, disappointments. Like, you can talk about some of the guys that got banged up and whatnot, but, like, injuries happen. It's what happens with a contact sport like this. But, like, Michael Thomas, like, a little bang up, then punching his teammates. Like, this guy is...
Yeah, remember when he was supposed to come back that game, and then they sat him because he punched his teammate? Like, what happened to that? What, did he hurt himself punching his teammate and threw his back out?
Probably just broke his hand.
Ah, dang it! He missed and just hit the locker, like, shatters everything in his hand.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I am in full support if you want to just pull the ripcord on him and try and get what you can back and try and sell him. Like, oh, you should be back any time now. Just like, it's hard for me to say to any championship team to buy in on him because he should be, like you said, he should be back and he should be Michael Thomas. But man, he could cost you a playoff bye if your league does that. He could cost you some quality seating.
Sure. Matt Rule yesterday said that Christian McCaffrey still has not been ruled out from Thursday's game. He may be on a snap count, though, if he does play on Thursday. I think, especially against the Falcons, if he plays, you play him. Because, even if McCaffrey gets, 8 to 10 touches and backs that up with, let's say, 3 to 7 targets, he could still provide value for you against that terrible Falcons team. But... worrisome that he could be on a snap count. Still, it's nice to see that at least one of these injured superstars is going to be back on the field soon. Because, if he's this close to coming back, if he's not back this week, he'll be back next week.
Yeah, I still doubt that he is going to play tomorrow.
It definitely sounds like it's a long shot.
Yeah, that's what they were saying at the beginning of the week, and also it's a Thursday game. You never want to play somebody on a Thursday game. That's like, he's been getting his rest. But
I think Christian McCaffrey and Mike Davis are both in play though. If Christian McCaffrey is starting, because it's unlikely Christian McCaffrey gets the full workload. So Mike Davis could still see 60% of that workload against the Falcons, which I think is enough for him to make hay for fantasy managers. But the writing is on the wall for Mike Davis, regardless of what happens with McCaffrey, unless he gets a re-injury. This is his last week.
What are you talking about, Ian? They're going to split carries, says the coach.
Dalvin Cook is back at practice today in limited fashion. Sounds like he should be a full go for the game against the Packers this weekend, which is good for him because that is a fantastic matchup. Aaron Jones, on the other side of the ball, not practicing today, and it sounds like from the word coming out of Green Bay is that he is expected to sit this week. That's per Rob Demovsky. Rob Demovsky, there we go. Sounds like it might be another week for Aaron Jones. Matt LaFleur said that holding him out definitely helped, but he's got to continue to improve, and they're not going to risk him long term for the sake of 1 week. So,
go Quadzilla.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but it's too bad that you're probably not going to get Aaron Jones in a good matchup against Minnesota. But hey, if you have Jamal Williams, good matchup against Minnesota.
He looked real good last
He's
week.
always looked good. He's just been splitting time.
Well, splitting time is...
Also, it's really easy to look good when you're on Aaron Rodgers' offense.
Yeah.
It has Devontae Adams.
I would say more importantly, Devontae Adams looked really good. Like that game was just... It was tough to watch if you were a Vikings fan, I would imagine. Or not a Vikings fan, a Texans fan. My bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say they play the Vikings this week, so unless you're commenting on this upcoming game, like
I mean, it's probably going to be tough to watch if you're a Vikings fan.
Chris Carson has been declared a true game time decision, which is surprising given that they were saying he was week to week. But hey, I'll take it. One to keep an eye on, especially given how injured their running back core is. Literally, their only fully healthy running back is DJ Dallas. So hopefully he was someone that everyone picked up. I know he slipped through our waiver process because at the time, it wasn't fully clear what was going on with Carlos Hyde. But if Carson doesn't play, it sounds like it's going to be DJ Dallas against San Francisco. So, I guess knock on wood that it's Carson.
More running backs that I have never heard of until this week.
He's a rookie, that's why.
Yeah.
And then Bruce Arians said, Antonio Brown looks fantastic. He's in great shape, and he should be ready to go for next week. So, pour one out if you're a Mike Evans or Chris Godwin manager.
Yeah, this is not good for either of their stocks in fantasy or for their target shares.
I think what I expected is going to be bad for everyone except for Brady.
Yeah.
I think that I've said it before. I think there's an outside chance that AB returns, top 15 value rest of season, but he needs Chris Godwin to stay out for that to happen. I think most likely this just becomes a fantasy carousel where maybe one of them has a good game every third week, and you can never tell which one it's going to be.
Yeah, I think the biggest benefactor is clearly just Brady. I think
hurt Brady.
Yeah, I think this is just giving him more sure targets that he trusts out there on the field. He's just trying to turn this team into just old Patriots.
Have you ever seen a more win now team than this Buccaneers team? They're going to win one, and then half the team's going to retire.
Yeah, it looks like they are just... where's the week? Ronald Jones is coming back down to earth, but
they're so loaded.
He still looks good.
They're so loaded.
Well, to start the year, we were projecting them. Well, at least I was for.
No one thought their defense was going to be this good. That's the thing. Their defense looks great. Their wide receivers look great. Rob Gronkowski doesn't have to do much, but he looks great in a limited role. They got Leonard Fournette for free to tag on to Ronald Jones. Their offensive line is holding up better than expected. It's just everything on this team looks great. Brady, predictably, is having an easy time throwing to probably the league's best wide receiver core now. It's just what are you going to do against this team? I still wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs beat them, but
to start the year, it's I predicted them as top 4, top 5 offense, and now they have Antonio Brown.
It was like them and the Cowboys.
Who is? I had the Falcons up there too, but that we know how both of those went. But it's just if they go out and trade for Travis Kelce,
that's not going to happen.
But it's just that's the only other area they can improve. I think
this team is locked and loaded, full of people on 1-year contracts, ready to win or win and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, they are. You think this is Brady's swan song?
Yes.
To be fair, he he is on a 2-year contract. I could see him walking away though if he wins. But the NFL is in opposition to the NBA. There's a lot more turnover. The winning multiple championships is such a big thing because it doesn't honestly happen that much.
Yeah.
Usually there's at least a year or so turnover from the long season you have to play, all those other things. I could easily see them. They get their rings. They all say thank you, and they all just like the Dragon Balls after you make a wish, just to the corners of the earth.
I will say one thing that I'm somewhat excited about. Obviously, it's no longer as a Patriots fan, but given that Brady is looking good in Tampa Bay, we might finally get to see, Brady and Aaron Rodgers face off in a big stakes game. It's just the NFC Championship instead of the Super Bowl. But I mean, there's a chance we get Brady Rodgers NFC Championship and then Brady Big Ben Super Bowl. I'd be down for that. That's some storylines right there. The grandpas of the league facing off. All right, let's get into this trade talks. We've each prepared one trade for candidate and one trade away candidate apiece. How we're going to do this, we're going to go around the table and do our trade fors, and then go around the table and do our trade aways. Frankie, seeing as you had yours in the show doc first, you want to take us away?
You know what? I think I will. Now, I've really liked Myles Gaskin this year. Hasn't really had those boom games.
Nice storyline.
But no, he's looked good, and honestly, that offense as a whole has looked good.
Mm-hmm.
And still, sidebar, sad about the Fitzpatrick thing. But this ties into it a little bit, where we don't know what we're going to get with Tua. We might get Tua might go out there and ball out. He might be great.
I saw a report on, I forget who it was from. It was from an NFL guy on Twitter today that suggested that Tua was going to be the Phillip Rivers to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert's Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, because they all came in the same class. So there was just that Tua was going to be the odd man out in this one.
With that being said, I think at least in our league he's like the running back 37 right now, which is
Go on.
I could be double check that for me, but I could be wrong. I mean, he's currently fourth in running back receptions at 27 and has a 93.45 catch rate, so he's catching pretty much everything that's thrown his way.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he only has one touchdown on the ground, one through the air. I think the biggest attractor for me is like the volume and the snap count he's getting. He's getting an average of 66.8. So
yes, because the running back 25 in our league.
Yeah. So I mean, still outside.
He's basically a running back 2 in most leagues.
So 66.8, round that up to 67 snap share. And then this goes back to the Tua thing. Like, we don't know what we're going to get. I mean, the amount of run plays we start calling could go up. It could stay the same. If he's balling out, it could go down.
Sure.
But I think even then, I mean, he's shown he can be a pass-catching back. You can probably get him pretty cheap because he's not like the guy that I'm going to talk about for my trade away. He's not a sexy name either. He's new. Someone might not be doing their research or looking at what he's actually doing with the touches that he's getting.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be able to get him for pretty cheap. And I am all for trading for him if I can get him for that cheap price. I'm not going to pay premium. But, again, he could be a league winner. He's got a pretty easy schedule coming up. And it's...
I don't know if he has the impact to be a league winner, in my opinion, but I do like him as a trade for. He could be a solid anchor for your team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking like running back 1 or 2. I'm talking about if you need like to solidify that flex guy in there.
Typically, if you're talking about a league winner, though, they need to have the ceiling. I don't know if Gaskin on that Dolphins team has the ceiling you're looking for from a league. He's not a Kamara or CMC when healthy. He's not even a James Robinson, I don't think, with his usage. But he's going to always go out there, and he's the only guy back there. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard, but Jordan Howard's being bandied about as a trade target for the actual NFL deadline. That backfield sounds like it's only going to get safer for him. So I really like him as a trade for.
Yeah, I think the other reason I like him because of his he being like a low end RB2 in rankings right now. The owner you're trading with, you can, like I said, if Gaskin's actually the target of your trade, you can frame the target of your trade around somebody else who's also a bigger name.
Well, trade draft.
Yeah, you're going for, maybe you're going for one of the receivers that hasn't produced, or you're going for a guy who's a buy high. Like, listen, I know I'm buying this guy high. You throw in Gaskin, I'll give you a running back. Like, now you're getting Gaskin and a guy you like, and the owner that you're going to doesn't think you're actually, they think Gaskin's the throw-in. And they might also think he's kind of a throw-in. It's like, yeah, you can have my backup running back if you give me a running back. Maybe you're sending him a running back that's...
It's the advantage of those no-name guys. It's
right.
like
The classic swindle.
If you're not someone who's doing your due diligence for, trades or like paying attention to things as the season goes on, you might still think of Gaskin as that guy you grabbed off the waiver wire, and not a guy who's turning in consistent performances for fantasy managers. Yeah, I'm with you there. But what about you? What's your first, or what's your trade for?
I am going a lot more spicy and a guy that I think legitimately should be able to steal you a league, and that's George Kittle.
I like it.
So Kittle to this point has had 2 games that he probably won you, out of all 7 that we've played. He's been out for 2, got injured in the first one. He came back to boom against Philadelphia, and he boomed against the Rams. But Miami, New England, these are games where the teams scored a crap ton. 43 against the Miami and 33.
We need a breaking news button, but this news just came out. I'm pulling up the source right now, but Adam Schefter, perfect. The source is Adam Schefter. Dalvin Cook will be active Sunday against the Packers.
All right, so some light breaking.
It's still important. It's important news because we had just mentioned that he was at least limited today in practice. But so it's nice to get confirmation on Wednesday night. That's when we're filming this. Dalvin Cook is confirmed going to be active for Sunday's game. So
Also, that is good for my lineup making.
Yeah, it's good to have some clarity.
I'm thrilled to get. He's so fun to watch run. All right, back to what you're saying. Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Kittle Cat. So everyone. The downside of trading for Kittle is he's a very well-known commodity. He does have a couple pop games that they'll try and bring up and be like, yeah, but he did this. This owner could be in a bit of, bye week hell. They could be one of the teams that's had suffered some injuries. And you can talk to him like, hey, listen, you only get him for a couple more games, then he goes on a bye. Can you really afford more losses? And he's been pretty boomer bust this season. Clearly, they can get away from him if they need to. These are the things I'm bringing up when selling him. What I believe is that he is slowly going to just start taking over this offense just a whole because their running game's getting banged up, their wide receivers are getting banged up. Ayuk looks like the only thing that's healthy that really can give them some solid production because,
I like Brandon Ayuk.
He has looked good in the run he's got.
Yeah.
And the thing you're getting is, I've never been much on the draft tight end high, but I'm fine owning one later, trading for one at a depressed value because, like I said, when he booms, 15 targets, 10 targets, he can take him to the house, and his floor games, they're not that bad. And his floor games are solid games for most tight ends. And right now, he's playing the Seahawks. This might be a shootout. This literally might be the last time you get him because if he booms again, and he's got 3 boom games, and that manager starts putting some wins together and is starting marching towards being in the playoffs, he might be like, why would I trade away my anchor to my team? You got to pounce on people when they're weak and when they need something. Maybe you've got a running back that you're okay with. Maybe you're deep at running back, and that could be a real gold mine in this season. Maybe you've got a cheap guy that you can send him along with a tight end to hey, for me, I've got Hawkinson. Hey, I can give you a guy who's a solid tight end, so you're not losing that much, and I'll give you this guy to kind of help your team, and that could be enough to get it done right there.
Yeah. As someone whose anchor is currently injured, rip Aaron Jones's calves, I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's if he booms now, you're probably not going to get him.
You also the added benefit with him of you mentioned that you don't like to draft tight end high. He was drafted very highly by fantasy managers, and given that he's been hurt and flopped, probably if you're combining those two more than half the weeks. If you were someone who spent that second or third round pick on George Kittle, you're probably not doing so hot. I do roster Kittle in a few leagues this year. In the leagues that I roster Kittle, I'm 3-4-1 and 1-6 in the other. The other one I also had Dak and CEH. So my
ripping pairs.
Yeah, my first couple picks didn't go so hot in that, but I'm getting up. Kittle has been a weight to teams that drafted him so far. When you spend a pick on a player that high and they don't play or they play poorly, they actively cost you weeks. You can take advantage of managers' frustration.
Yeah, there's definitely salt in the wounds, and they might be looking short-sighted to get wins now. And like I said, they're looking at that Week 11 bye, panicking. Whereas if you're in the driver's seat right now in your league, you're looking at Week 14, 15, 16. Washington, Dallas, Arizona.
Yeah.
That's money right there.
All right, I'll get to mine here, and then we can get to the tradeaways. And before I dive into mine, I do just want to remind people, when we say trade for and trade away, take that with a grain of salt. This isn't, blow your load, trade everything on your team to get these players, or for trade away, it's like this player's about to drop to absolute zero, get rid of them at all costs. It's like, these are players who, for one reason or another, are presenting an opportunity to be traded for, and generally can be traded for on the cheap, or they are currently playing over their head or near their ceiling, and they can present you with extra value if you trade them away.
Or as the industry term goes, buy low, sell high.
Right, but there's some context that you need with buy low, sell high.
Well, I mean, there's
some people hear that and they hear sell low or sell high, and they're like, all right, well, let's get rid of him. Or they hear buy low, and they'll offer like, Greg Ward and DJ Dallas for James Robinson because he's someone's buy low, and it's like no one's going to accept that. Like, you still have to give up pieces to get pieces, and you don't want to sell the farm or give someone away for a song because some fantasy analyst said that they're a sell high or a sell now person. It's just
this goes back to a completely different conversation. When I was saying this yesterday, context is everything. I mean, it's like if you're 1-4 or whatever your record is at this point, if you're not in a winning position, and you can't afford to trade pieces for whatever reason it may be, you got Eckler, you got Thorny, and you're waiting for him to come back, or something like that. Maybe you can't afford to make a trade, or maybe you can't.
The message there is know your league and understand what you have on your team. Don't make a trade that bankrupts you, or don't give away the farm because someone says to trade a player.
Yeah, and just a minor point on top of that. Also, if you're in the opposite seat, if someone's coming to you trying to buy low or sell high, don't take that as gospel and be like, this article says I should sell high. Like, so clearly he's just trying to give me a garbage player. Like, this guy's producing. That means there's something there. Like the fantasy community, somebody might not believe in him. There's something there. Or the buy low guy. If you can figure out trades to keep that buy low guy on your team, or if you're able to talk, you might be able to talk that guy into giving you fair value. So instead of selling a guy like that for 70 cents on the dollar, you can get 80, 90 cents. You can get some quality back and make them actually pay for the player.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my trade for is in the same vein as Kittle, someone who fantasy managers are spending a top 5 rounds pick on. I believe he was going the 5th or 6th in most leagues. Hollywood Brown has been abysmal for fantasy managers this year, especially because of the darling he was coming into the draft and the hot waiver ad that he was last year. He has not been Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Or he has not been DK Metcalf. Like, he has done very little so far this season, but I'm here to tell you why you should be buying into Hollywood, not trying to get rid of him. He is the 3rd easiest strength of schedule for wide receivers rest of season, including matchups against Cleveland and the New York Giants in weeks 14 and 16. So real saucy schedule coming up. A lot of soft defenses. He's been averaging 26.4% of his team's targets, and his stats so far this year are very similar or better to what he was doing last year. Outside of the touchdowns, he has 1 touchdown this year, and he had 7 last year. You should be expecting there to be some positive touchdown regression for this kid. He had a tough start to the year, a bit of rough sledding to start the season. The Ravens haven't been throwing as well. They haven't been throwing as much, and that was affecting Hollywood's value a little bit. They're going to have to throw more in the second half. They're facing better offenses. They're also facing offenses with softer passing defenses. Hollywood is their primary receiver down the field. He's going to find the end zone. He could start it this week against Pittsburgh because the Ravens are going to have to throw to keep up with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has too many weapons that they can roll out there against the Ravens. The Ravens aren't going to be able to bottle them up completely. Like, they're going to slow them down. They're not going to, hang 35 on the Ravens, but they can hang 21 on them. The Ravens can't play a slow game against Pittsburgh. So they're going to have to throw this week. This is like your window is closing with this kid. If he goes off this week, fantasy managers who drafted him are going to feel vindicated. They're not going to want to give him up. So you want to get him before this week because that's likely when he's going to pop, and he could keep doing that for you the rest of the season, honestly. And then finally, he's past his bye week. It's a little extra bump, but I always like trading for players that are past their buys Because if you can avoid doing the whole bye week dance entirely, it makes it easier for you to make the playoffs. So especially if you're a team that's, you know, you're 3-4, you're 2-5, you're even if you're 4-3, you're scrapping to make that playoff spot. You want to try and give yourself any edge you can. Dodging a bye week is an edge. So trade for Hollywood Brown. Frankie, do you want to take us away with your trade away as well?
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit before. James Robinson. He has looked really good this season.
Yeah.
I know in our league.
To everyone's surprise.
I know in our league he's the RB3. No, you don't need to double check that one.
He's the RB5 in most leagues.
Yeah. So top 5 running back looks great. That offense, aside from him, has not looked super good.
You can say that.
I mean, they were the league.
Talking about benching Minshew after the boss.
Yeah. They were league. I mean, they were the league low projected team by Vegas at the beginning of the year. But I mean, Chark's only averaging 10 points a game. I think Minshew's somewhere in high teens, low 20s. So fine if you're a quarterback, but Robinson comes out of the bye. He's got Houston and Green Bay, both really good matchups. So you might be thinking, oh, you know, like, honestly, I might wait until see if he has those boom games to, you know, or at least the first boom game against Houston if it happens, which, I mean, the Packers and Jamal Williams showed last week is very possible. But then he's got Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Minnesota, Tennessee, Baltimore, Chicago, and Indy. Some of those are in the middle of the pack. Others are, like Pittsburgh, are at the top of the pack in run defense. He's only hit 20 carries once. That was last week. And I don't really want to see that in my RB1. I want to see that guy who's going to get that volume, like a la Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. Only topped 100 yards on the ground twice. Once was barely. I mean, I think that's only going to go down facing these tougher defenses. He does get some passing work as well. But, again, these are all pretty good defenses, barring Minnesota. And, maybe Cleveland. But it's just, I would use that number, whatever he is in your league, number 3, number 5. Sell him high, and he's looked good enough to this point. Which, again, I'll say, I might wait and see if Houston has a boom game against Houston. Ship him off your team. Maybe get a package back. Maybe just try and get a 1-for-1 from somebody. Maybe, Eckler's still out. Maybe the Eckler owner hasn't traded him away and doesn't have a solid RB2 and he's frustrated. Try and trade for him. He has a really good playoff schedule. But I am in sell mode on James Robinson. If not this week, see how Houston goes. If he booms, get him off your team.
I wouldn't sell him this week. So I somewhat agree with you. While I think it's tough to trade away a running back as consistent as James Robinson has been, especially with how many injuries there are this season, I think that the Jags are playing a little above their head so far this year. He's been getting a lot of usage. If other offenses or other defenses start to key into what they've been doing, he could get bottled up a little bit. So I think there might be some regression coming his way. But you don't want to trade him this week because he's on his bye. No one's going to give you... you could get face value for James Robinson. He's been good. No one's going to give you face value if you're trading him away on his bye week.
That is a really good point.
Yeah. If you're on the trade James Robinson train, unless you have someone who's head over heels for him, you wait till next week. You agree with that, Vitaly?
Yeah. I'm also more in the it's okay to keep him just because, yes, his carries haven't been, he hasn't been topping 20 except for the last week, but his touches, total touches have been elite numbers because it's hard to find a running back out there who can get you 15 plus a game, and he's been easily doing that most weeks, if not hitting up to 20 plus. I think his lack of running production, you love to see guys who can get up to that 100 mark, but that's becoming more and more scarce, even with the fully healthy league. We're seeing a lot more guys who give you 15 on the ground and 5-6 through the air. So that's what I like about him. And I honestly think that this bye week coming right now might give them time to get a healthy Chark, which I think will drastically help the offense. And maybe they can take this extra time to get Minshew back to what classic Minshew. I mean, I'm not expecting him to take a huge leap forward, but if he can start connecting on some maybe simpler targets, utilize Robinson's ground game to set up like play action or something like that, whatever you need to help that kid. I am in the side of like he's got some rough sledding coming up. If I'm their owner, I sell him after Houston, because then you have you're past your bye. You can sell something like you don't have to worry about his bye. You've got, you still got Green Bay coming, and if he pops against Houston, he'll have a great stat line going forward.
Vitaly, what about you? What's your trade away?
Well, for me, I am also going with a running back who is an RB1, but I'm going with a guy who's much more expensive that helps buoy his value, and that's Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
I am off the Josh Jacobs train for the main reason of he is getting volume, but my God, is he doing nothing with it. Like, 27 carries, he only got up to 88 yards. Like, his average per game is pedestrian at this point. He's only able to top 4 yards a carry once. And that was week 3 against New England. Like, he's getting the work. They're using him. But his catches, his receptions per game is, a couple, 2, 3. And like I said, 3.2 on the ground, 3.3. Just recently against Tampa Bay, granted a great defense, but 1.7. And now, like, he is so touchdown dependent for an elite running back, it's not even funny. Like, when he doesn't hit the end zone, he just misses it completely, and he's going to give you like a 10-point game, if that. And when he hits, he booms real hard, 30 points. He can get you. He usually goes in multi times. So you can sell people on those up games, and the fact that he is still in the RB1 conversation right now, and those are rare. I would go out right now and just trade him for maybe a couple of running backs, or trade him for a running back that's has some depressed value that you believe in. Trade him for a wide receiver. Like, you can get a pretty valuable wide receiver, not even one that's doing poorly. You can get a guy who's up on the rise, like a Kenny Golladay, easy for Josh Jacobs. It's just this team is utilizing their other backs. He is not doing anything with his carries. His O-line just all got COVID. You hope
they won, and the other ones are cleared.
They're all cleared, but like we know the gestation period that could just pop up later. Like we've seen it where a couple negative tests come through, but the other part is that the guy who got it was their best lineman.
Yeah.
And you hope he comes back. You hope he comes back ready to go. But we've seen even elite level athletes, track runners, guys who are known for their endurance, come back and not be anywhere close to the same because of a heart condition, as the Boston Red Sox know with Erod. Like,
I mean, look what's happening with Cam right now. Like,
yeah,
he definitely doesn't look. It's a complete sidebar, but I mean, Cam just doesn't look the same out there.
So you take away his best blocking asset. You take an offense that is led by rookie wide receivers. And you take a running back who's just not getting it done on the ground, despite him being just overloaded with carries. I see just a running back who is being propped up by his name in a couple of good games. Get rid of him now, because you don't see much in his future. Like, he gets for his playoff schedule as well: Indy, the Chargers, and then Miami. Like, those are two rough. You might not get past Indy.
Yeah.
So.
For my trade away, I cheated a little bit. I just listed a wide receiver core instead of a specific wide receiver, but that's because I feel the same about both of them. I listed my trade away, my sell high, if you will, as the Seahawks wide receivers. But wait, you say, Seahawks wide receivers, didn't Tyler Lockett just drop 500 million points? Yes, he did. So trade him away now. They have the single hardest wide receiver strength of schedule through week 16. That includes 3 extremely negative matchups over the next 3 weeks. And then in weeks 15 and 16, they get Washington, which is the 31st best pass defense or worst pass defense to go against. They are the 32nd. They are allowing 20.8 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. And then in week 16, your championship matchup for most people, he gets the Rams. Metcalf and Lockett have to go up against that Rams wide receiver core, which is allowing 22.1 fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Like, that's not good. I'm not saying that they're going to bust out the rest of the season. They're still going to be good fantasy wide receivers, but their value is going to come down from what it is currently. They've been gangbusters over the first 8 weeks of the season, and it is unlikely to continue that way with the defenses that they're going to have to be going up against. Like, they're going to just, the passing volume is going to slow down. The weather is getting colder. It's going to flip to more of a run-heavy script, especially against some of these defenses that, they're more porous in the ground than they are through the air. And we've seen this in the past where, Russell Wilson comes out hot out of the gates and then slows down throughout the rest of the year because the Seahawks don't need him to throw that much, over the course of the season. Right now, you can get a king's ransom especially for Lockett and probably for Metcalf too. They're both, top 5 or 7 wide receivers in most scoring formats. So you can get a king's ransom for them. I'm going out there right now. I'm seeing if I can flip, what I can flip them for Lockett. You might be able to flip them for Aaron Jones. Beat up, probably missing a second week. I'd do that in a heartbeat. You could probably flip Metcalf for Josh Jacobs or James Robinson. Especially if you're a team that's deep at receiver and hurting at running back. Flip these guys for another very good fantasy asset that has an easier back half schedule, and just let them potentially be time bombs on someone else's team because they're paying for that 50-point ceiling, not the 15 to 18 points they're probably going to get you the rest of the season per game.
I'm still mad Metcalf didn't get points with that chase down.
He should have. That was amazing.
That was... Whew. But no, I agree with most of what you said. It's hard to...
Metcalf's probably the harder one because he had a bye week and then a down game. So Metcalf has, if managers are looking at it, he has 2 lower performances.
It's hard for him to have a boom game when Tyler Lockett's dropping 50. But
yeah,
I get the points that you're saying. I'm not in full sell mode on them because, it is still...
I stand by what I said where I'm saying if you can get a king's ransom for them. Like, these are players where it's they're going up against a bad schedule. So, and they've been doing amazing to this point in the year. Just because they did well to this point doesn't mean that you can just copy-paste that into the second half of the year. So, if you're expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. You should see what you can get because there are a lot of fantasy managers who think like that, where they see what's happened and they expect that to keep happening. It's unlikely to be the case. And if you can get a big payday for one of these guys, you should take it and run.
Yeah, I think Lockett's the one that's more likely to get that for you, especially with...
50-point game.
It's
easy to dangle that in front of someone like a lure. Just, you got to be faster than that. But those are our trade for and away targets. If you have any more specific trade questions for us regarding your team or players in your league, hit us on the socials. We are more than happy to answer trade questions, to give our advice. I would say more detail helps if you're asking us trade questions, though. As the more specifics you give us, the better advice we can give you guys. But with that, let's jump over to our starts and money picks of the week. I'll take it away here with this. For my starts of the week, so this week I have Jonathan Taylor versus Detroit. And Hollywood Brown versus Pittsburgh. I think a trend there with Hollywood. But and then for my money picks, I went with Dalvin Cook versus Green Bay at 7,500, where he should absolutely feast. And Rashard Higgins versus Las Vegas at 4,200. I'm not crazy about Rashard Higgins, but at 4,200, it's an easy buy for me.
I think it's going to be a sneaky shootout, to be honest.
It could be. Cleveland looked good last week. They threw for quite a few touchdowns. Rashard Higgins has good chemistry with Baker. And 4,200 is not a price that's hard to pay off, especially in full-point PPR. If he catches 6 balls for 60 yards, you're in the money.
It does help that OBJ is done for the year, so he is definitely inheriting a role.
I would not be recommending Rashard Higgins if OBJ was still on the field.
Tyler, what about you?
Well, I went a little spicy, as I told you guys pre-show. For my starts, I went with Ryan Tannehill versus Cincy. As Frankie likes to tell us, sneaky shootout. I think this Cincy is an exploitable defense, and the Titans have wanted to throw. A.J. Brown's been back in a big way, and I expect him to continue to do the same. Hopefully not the whole 0 points till the half kind of thing, but he should produce.
Would you say that you're a fan of A.J. Brown?
Nope. He was actually considered one of. I was actually on the same train. I was thinking of putting him as a sell high guy, in the same vein as the Seahawks receivers, but he needs a little bit more time to put up points, I think.
It's cute. He's in denial.
It's fine.
He has a really nice rest of season.
He does.
So, on to my second one. I went with start of Juju Smith-Schuster. Normally, he's too high of a draft pick to put in here, but how he has played has been poor lately. And I think against Baltimore, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to need to score because I think Baltimore's going to be able to put up points against them. And as we saw last week, Juju's not out of the system. He got peppered 15 targets last week, and I'm ready to buy in on him at least being the number 2. And I think with teams having a lot of tape and Deontay Johnson breaking out and taking over that number 1 spot, it might just open up for some old school Juju plays where he's not taking top coverage anymore, and they're not scheming against him, so he can just work and operate freely across the middle. So that's what I'm hoping for in this one. That's why I went for the start over the money with him. I don't think his value is right there yet.
I think his ceiling is lower than what you'd be hoping for too. So it's like he's a fine start. He represents a great floor. I don't know that he's going to be that ceiling play anymore though.
Yeah, he has to earn that back.
Yeah.
Moving to my money picks, I picked AJ Green versus Tennessee.
The wrong AJ.
There are other targets there that have been popping off in this system, and for redraft, I'd rather have them over AJ Green. But AJ Green 2 weeks in a row has seen 12 plus targets, and as you said with your money pick, if he just pulls down 7 like he did in the past 2 games and progresses the ball a bit, he will return his $4,500 value and let you start some more studs this week, like a Dalvin Cook. And then my other one, I went with Darrell Henderson Jr. at Miami. 5,900. I'm not worried about this team, and I think Darrell Henderson's going to start reasserting himself into the role as the lead back. And if he does that, we know what happens. It's big fantasy money for everyone.
So both one of my starts on my money are contingent, but we'll say, one of my starts of the week, Mike Davis at Atlanta. I think even if CMC is on limited snaps, Mike Davis is going to have a field day. This Atlanta offense has looked terrible all season. They've blown...
Wait, is he running against the Atlanta offense?
This Atlanta team, I misspoke, has looked terrible all season. They've blown several teen-plus leads, including the atrocious one last week. And, he's shown he can be kind of like the budget CMC. He is pretty much filling the same exact role and has looked great doing it. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't produce this week. And with the injury to Deshaun Jackson, who had, if you guys remember, just recovered from injury, I'm putting Greg Ward on here versus Dallas because Dallas doesn't look like he can stop a paper bag at this point. Whatever team they play is going to score points. And Greg Ward, over the last couple weeks, has shown, even if he doesn't get a touchdown, which he has been over the past couple weeks, he's going to get you a pretty safe floor. But, he's probably not going to boom. But if there's a game where he's going to boom, it is against the Dallas Cowboys. They don't look like they want to play football. They definitely don't look like they want to play defense. And I think if there's a game where he's going to boom, it's going to be this one.
And they did just trade away one of their defensive options. So,
for my money picks, a little bit pricey for the first one. Aaron Rodgers at 7,600, but we've seen when he did to Minnesota to start the year. I think he's going to return value there. Especially now that he has Devontae back. Woo! I think it's going to be a 3-touchdown game. A couple 100 yards for Devontae, or maybe like 120-ish. But Jamal Williams, always been a good pass catching back.
Yep.
I think he's going to be coming out of the backfield a lot on screens, especially against this middling Minnesota defense. And then my other one, at 3,500 against Detroit. Trey Burton, he's going to allow you to pay for those guys like Devontae and Aaron Rodgers if you want to stack them. And if Mo Alley-Cox is still injured, which I don't think he was at practice today, he put up points last week. And if he gets a couple of catches, like 60 yards, that's already paying money.
Vitaly, you want to give the audience Jeff's picks?
Sure, why not? So, Mr. Jeffrey went with Brandon Ayuk against Seattle. I like it. Almost went with it myself, but he grabbed it first. Jarvis Landry against Vegas, which, probably playing for that increased target share.
I imagine so, yeah.
For his monies, Hunter Renfrow against Cleveland for 3,800. Nice little cheap play. And Jonnu Smith versus Cincinnati for 41.
Not a bad price for tight end.
I did also almost go with Jonnu for my money. So good for you, Jeff.
All right. Well, that'll do it for our starts of the week and money picks. Let's do a quick beer check. I am through one.
I just started two.
Right here on one.
I haven't taken a sip of two yet, so Frankie, you win.
All right. I started off the season hot, and this whole Aaron Jones calf injury thing is really just. I get what the Packers are doing, and if I was in their shoes, I would be doing the same thing. I also hate that I dropped Jamal Williams last week. This is kind of just an Aaron Jones tangent right here, but no, I think that Aaron Jones is look good. I'm as one of my stamps of approval, I'm very happy with what I've seen from Aaron Jones this year. But I want him back. He's missed 1 week. He's probably missing this week. I think that
baby, is one of your running backs missing a week? Welcome to my world, Frankie.
No, I am not happy about the fact that, especially since I'm facing you this week in our league, that I don't have Aaron Jones. But I know you're probably feeling a little bit more comfortable going to this matchup.
Yes.
But on the plus side, at least we're not game of the week.
All right, well, that'll do it for us today. Join us tomorrow as we bring you all our weekly countdown show and our streaming defense of the week. And we will not see you all again before the Thursday game. So for those of you having players in that game, I wish you all the best of luck and score lots of points. Adios!